All right. Well, welcome everyone. As people are still coming in, we'll dive in and get started today. We have about 45 minutes together in our webinar, so we'll jump in and make the best use of everybody's time today. So we are so excited to dive in together with Axero and the Mariner Finance team. We are going to dive in and have Mariner Finance share how they leverage Axero in our platform. And what's really exciting is Mariner Finance has been a partner and a customer of ours for over 6 years now. So very exciting to have somebody who has so much experience with our platform and our team dive in and share how they are actually connecting culture and knowledge across their organization. For those of you who are new to hearing the Mariner Finance name, just a little bit about them. They are a loan organization based in the Baltimore, Maryland area. And they have over 500 branches scattered across the US. So large organization doing lots with their knowledge and culture with our platform across their organization. And that's what we're going to dive into, hear more about and learn more from them today. So I'll be your host. I'm Nicole. I'm with Axero, and I'm a senior manager with the enterprise sales team. I'm calling in from San Diego out in California, so opposite coast. Usually wonderful weather. It's been raining and flooding here, so a little bit different than what people are used to hearing for San Diego weather. I also am joined by a wonderful colleague of mine, Malia, who is our Director of Client Success. And Malia is going to lead our conversation today, lead our discussion today. Malia works very closely with our customers, including the Mariner Finance team. So very excited to welcome her knowledge and expertise and have us dive in together. So from the Mariner team, we have some wonderful expertise joining us that we'll go through with Malia and talk about how they're using our platform. We have Taryn, Danny, Patricia, and Lawrence all joining us today. So thank you, Mariner team, for jumping in here and spending your time with us. A few items before we jump in is just that we have a Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. So any questions all throughout our time together today, please feel free to drop your questions in that Q&A box. You can even go into that Q&A box and upvote other questions. If you don't have one, but you just like one that you saw, feel free to upvote them. And we will save time at the end of our webinar today to try to get to some of those questions. All right, so just a quick agenda for what we plan to cover today. Tell you a little bit about Axero real quick. Then we'll dive right into the Q&A discussion with Mariner and take your questions at the end to hear what you want to learn more about as well. So just a little bit about Axero before we dive in, because some of you are some long-term clients, so thank you for joining us today. But there's many of you who joined us today who are brand new to Axero, some currently evaluating joining Axero. So just wanted to give a quick overview of who we are and a little bit of who you're talking to today from Axero. So we were founded over 15 years ago. So we've been in the business of digital workplace and employee intranet for all of these years. What's very exciting is that we're a leader in that space for digital workplace, employee intranet, and we have customers all around the world, all different sizes, all different industries. So finance is one of our largest customer bases, but we also have higher education, real estate, retail, nonprofit organizations, and again, all different size industry or size organizations leveraging our platform all around the world. We're based in New York City in the States, but we have people all around the world, like me in California. I think Malia is in the Northwest, and then we have folks in the East Coast as well. But we have people spread all throughout the world to support our global clients. So the primary purpose of what Axero does is distribute knowledge in a targeted and personalized way so that you can connect and with your people and your content and drive that engagement and knowledge across your organization. All right, I'm gonna stop talking and hand it over to the lovely Malia to take our Q&A discussion from there.
Excellent. Thank you, Nicole. Hello, everyone. As Nicole said, I'm Malia, and I've had the pleasure of working with the Mariner Finance team since I started at Axero. This team is really proof of what a dedicated organization can do when they use their intranet to drive culture, communication, and engagement. Now, I know Nicole already gave us a brief introduction, but on the call today, we have Taryn, who's been with Mariner Finance for 12 years and heads community engagement, culture, and communications. We also have Danny, who leads intranet design as the team lead for business applications and has been with Mariner Finance for 15 years. We also have Patricia, who is Mariner's chief people officer and has been with the team for 2.5 years. And Lawrence, who is the primary intranet content developer as the corporate communication manager and has been with Mariner for 1.5 years. All right, once again, thank you all so much for being here today to share your insights and experiences with us. I think a great place to start is to dive a little deeper into the world of Mariner Finance so we have a better idea of how you got here. To kick it off, can you tell us a little more about how Mariner Finance is structured and how the intranet you have today became a priority?
That is a great place to start, Malia, and I'll take that question. You know, Mariner is like a lot of organizations today, and we've even heard it from Axero, but we are based in Baltimore, Maryland, but we have 500 branches and over 2,000 employees in 30 states. So although we have a big support team right in Maryland, the bulk of our team members are decentralized. And so it's really important for us as a growing organization, which I think that's the goal of most companies, is that we stay connected, we keep consistency, lines of communication stay open. And, you know, one of the big things for Mariner is that we have had the opportunity to expand our footprint rather quickly over the last decade or so. And so those things that I just highlighted as priorities also become the immediate challenge for the organization. And that's really, you know, where the intranet comes in for us, is how do we help maintain those lines of communication and connection?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you speak about challenges, can you give us a little bit of insight about some of the initial problems you wanted to solve?
Sure. You know, I think like a lot of places, as we evolved with the technology, we became very email dependent very quickly. And so it became our primary source of communication. Our you know, district manager levels are also decentralized. They have multiple branches that they're interacting with. And so it's easy just to shoot an email to somebody, or it's easy for a department to shoot an email out about what's happening. But what really happens is that your team members go on information overload. They're not sure how to prioritize. They're not sure what action to take first, what they can come back to and review later. And it causes a lot of frustration and really can lead to burnout when people are trying to keep up. So I would say that that's the primary obstacle that we were looking to overcome.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's a pretty common obstacles a lot of customers see. The other part of this is that Mariner Finance has been using Axero for over 5 years now, but it wasn't until the last 2 years where you restructured your site, redesigned the homepage, and really dedicated resources to making it what it is today. We had a call a couple of weeks ago to review platform performance, and currently Mariner Finance has an average engagement of 99% active users a month, which is really high. Larry, do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. I think the big thing for us is originally when we conceived the intranet, it was really about information. It's where people went for essential information on how to do their jobs, how to navigate human resources, those type of things. But what we really wanted to do is to create a community where we learned about the people and the team that works here, whether it's in Baltimore or in any of our branches across the country. We wanted them to feel like they were one team. So we really created a lot of content that was really people focused. What are the people doing? How are they succeeding in the company? What are they doing in their communities? And so people really found that to be worthwhile. They were very engaged reading about what people are doing across the country. And I think that was the big thing, is we kind of created a community, even though we're spread out in so many places.
Yeah, absolutely. And what did you think was, most helpful when it came to improving usage and engagement?
So when we redesigned with your help and Danny's help, you guys did a great job of coming up with ideas where we put the people first. And so we made sure that people could still find those essential job necessary items, but then they were also able to find at their leisure during their workday, things where they could read about other things that were happening in the company, what other people were doing, and share a lot of ideas on what it is that makes Mariner so special.
Yeah, definitely. I think what's really interesting is you're using the same platform, but in a different way, and saw different results, including, more engagement and, just more effective communication. But can you give us a little bit more detail about what was going on that made you rethink how you use the Axero intranet?
Well,
I'm sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
you got that.
I do. But I'd love to hear your thoughts too. I was just going to jump in and say that I think what was happening that was a little bit different is, of course, the pandemic hitting and allowing, requiring people to be a little more isolated. We found that and in addition to the fact that we were growing pretty quickly, that we felt like we were losing some of that connectivity with our team members out in the field, and listening to them through employee surveys, et cetera. They told us that they wanted more two-way communication, and email is just not good at that. It's good at one-way communication when you want to deliver some information out to people, but we wanted more of that social media sort of aspect to our communications, where people could chime in on celebrations, could, participate in the conversation. So I think that was a lot of what was going into our thinking in terms of what was happening at the time and what we wanted to be a little bit different. I will also say that Larry joining our team, Larry comes from a background of news, worked in that industry in journalism for a number of years. And I think keeping content fresh and interesting is really important. So I think there was this different mindset going into what we wanted it to look like, that we would have more active content. And if we did that, people would engage more and it would start to be a domino effect. And I think that's proven to be pretty true so far. We still have work to do.
Yeah, definitely. Larry, was there anything else you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I think that's just the big thing, is that we really tried to, if you put a lot of content out there that's very people centric, then people essentially get trained to go to the intranet to look at different things that are happening inside the company. And they look at it as a valuable news source for their community, even in the workplace.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think everyone here knows taking on a project that involves restructuring an internal tool and then implementing it can be really stressful. So let's chat a little bit about what your experience was like. How did you tackle this project, and what were some of the first steps that you took?
Well, Malia, I think, when you go toward any project, the first is really understanding what your objectives are. So having a clear and defined outline of what do we want to accomplish, and setting realistic goals is very important. And then, beyond that, it's knowing your customer. And so for this team, our team members are our customer, because we're talking about internal communications and an internal intranet. And so it's really understanding what they want to get out of the experience of being on the intranet. And sometimes that's reading in between the lines, as you know, Patty talked about a little bit earlier. We had some really good employee engagement surveys that we were able to go back to, because sometimes what people tell you and what they really want are two different things. And so it was parsing that out. We definitely started with a focus group from our field team members to get some input from them right away and make them feel like they were partners instead of just having a change implemented from the top down.
Definitely. So if we think back a little bit, what were some of the biggest takeaways from your prior intranet, and what did you know you needed for your new one?
I think Larry talked about it a little bit. It was really a link to other business platforms. So things that we needed for job essential tasks, our team members were going there, clicking through, but the homepage was very static. It didn't change. It was not exciting or boring. It was certainly practical and easily utilized, but just didn't have a place where people wanted to latch on and come back to outside of, you know, once they had that bookmark to the link, they didn't even need to go to the homepage. So making sure that we were thinking about how to create that draw for our team members that Larry also talked a little bit about later was really important for us. And you know exactly what was that, a little bit of trial and error, but I think we're on our way to getting it right.
That's excellent. And what was your implementation and setup process like?
Well, we believe in giving people lots of heads up when we're going to create change, or as much as we have the ability to do. We know it's not always possible to give people a long lead time, but we let them know change was coming. We explained to them the why behind why we wanted to change it. And we really linked it back again to the needs that they had voiced. So it wasn't just, you know, we're doing this because we think it's good for you, but we heard you, and this is why we're doing this. And I think, you know, again, following through on the promises or the objectives was really important to do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. Did you need to get any executive buy-in for this project? And if so, do you have any tips for the group on how you were successful in doing that?
I could take that one a little bit. I think the comment Taryn made about our team members and getting their buy-in applies just as well to the executives. So I think the trick with getting executive buy-in is making it their idea, right? They've come to you with some business problems that require some business solutions. And so we identify those areas that collectively we all agree need to get better. And this is an example or a tactic or a strategy that we can use to be able to drive that business performance that they're looking for. Then they feel connected, right, to the idea about why they're doing this and how they might be able to support it. We also have some folks that just resist, you know, they're used to doing emails in a certain way and trying to figure out a way to meet them where they are, to encourage them to be able to sort of make that shift. Asking them to become engaged and involved and liking and commenting on articles and information that's out there so team members can see that they're engaged as well. So those are some of the things I think we've tried to do successfully.
Absolutely. I think there's some very helpful tips in there. And when it came to restructuring your intranet, what do you think, you know, were the most or some of the most important factors that overall made your team successful?
Yeah, I can take this one. I think there's gonna come down to kind of four factors. One being what is the goal and the vision for your intranet. And one of the goals was engagement, which kind of leads me to factor number two, taking a pause, reflecting, and just reviewing. Does your current structure reflect the goal of what you have? And as Taryn and Larry kind of alluded to earlier, it just was not engaging at all. When I looked at the old homepage, it was a bunch of phone numbers, quick links. This is stale. So like for me, looking at every day, like I there's no need to check did anything change versus if you want to go to like something like CNN.com or some other website, there's going to be some update. So like it's worthwhile to go check it out. So just making sure that it aligns with their goals. Number three is the customer, your user experience. We're talking about a major redesign here, and you don't want to turn people's worlds upside down, and they're going to have a negative reaction to it. So kind of need to figure out what's working for them. Do you want to keep it, move it, and this kind of goes into number four, teamwork and collaboration. Like, hey, here's my ideas. What do you guys think about it? If it's radical, I'll think of something else, move on. But yeah, having Taryn being part of the culture and then Larry being communications, they are key people to helping restructure it.
Absolutely. Did you get any feedback from your employees or leaders, after the restructure? And if so, what were the general comments you received?
We did. Most of them were overwhelmingly good, but I sort of liken it to when you go into your grocery store and they reorganize. There were a lot of times where people were like, oh, the salad dressing was always here and now it's not. And so people were looking for essential links that they had become used to, and they weren't there any longer. And one thing that we did is we really listened to them. We said, okay, we'll meet you halfway. We're not, this is our space. This is not my space or, this team space. This is everybody's space. So we put a lot of those things back in, and we really listened to them.
Yeah, I think that's very, very important. Are there any other takeaways or lessons that you learned during this process that you'd use if you were to relaunch an intranet again in the future?
I think the big thing is that originally I thought, oh, once we turn this on, this will be the way it's going to be. And that's not. I mean, we've really sort of listened, and this is a living, breathing thing, and we'll still make changes if we look at things and think, oh, that doesn't work, or maybe we should do this. And this platform is really good at allowing you to do that. You can change things up very quickly, very easily. And we are doing that. We made 2 changes this morning just because of the way the business changed, and we want to make certain things more prominent than they normally would be. So it's a living, breathing thing, and it's not an on-off switch. Be ready to continually change.
Yes, absolutely. That is very important, being able to change, take in feedback, and really make it an effective tool for the team. So let's talk a little bit about what your intranet is like today. I know you made a lot of changes, and I know a big priority for Mariner Finance is having that social aspect as a cornerstone for your intranet. As Patty mentioned earlier, you like to think of it as, almost a social networking sort of tool. Can you tell us more about how you use your intranet to drive culture and make your people feel connected? How did you make it people focused?
Yeah, I can take this one as well. We use the internet for 3 things, or many of things, but I just want to point out communications. Obviously, people feel more connected when they know what's going on with the company, right? And like I said, on the old homepage, there just wasn't a lot of news what's going on. It all resided in our email inbox. And I don't know about you guys, but this gets flooded with stuff, and that's not the place where I wanted to go to if I want to look for important information going on with the company. Something else is celebrations. So, we can celebrate people's birthdays or anniversaries on the internet. That's one, just to get another way to get people connected as well. And sharing. So, we've got company events. The internet platform is just not a one-way communication, it's 2-way. So we enable our users to share what's going on. I'm here in Maryland. We got a branch employee out in California. They can share content like what's going on at their branch.
Yeah, definitely. I love that you mentioned company events. I would love to know more about, what are some kinds of company events that you host throughout the year, and how do you use your intranet to drive that engagement?
I can take this one. I think one of the first events that when I came on board, each January we do a large leadership meeting. And I think a lot of times, before I had gotten here, it sort of operated, in a vacuum. Nobody really knew what was going in. And so my idea was to cover it as if it were a news event. Let's bring people into it. Let's show them what's happening. Even if they're not going to the meeting, they can feel included. So we put special content boxes up and allowed people to see everything that was happening in this 3-day conference, just as if they were invited. We also use it for team member appreciation. And so, they can see the shout outs, and we redesign it during special occasions and special times of the year so that people can kind of know that hey, this is happening, this is different, this is exciting.
Yes, definitely. And if you could just elaborate on that a little bit more for the group and tell us, what are some of the biggest factors that make you successful at using your intranet to achieve that stronger culture?
Well, I think one of the big things is that we allow them to generate content too.
Yeah.
We allow them to upload pictures. We allow them to make comments. We encourage that two-way communication. I think a lot of times, even 10, 15 years ago, companies really were, this is what's happening, this is what's going on. But you really have to, and this platform allows you to do that, is to have conversation in both directions. And it's good. It creates a great community that people feel like they're connected to. They can see things, they can hear things, they can add things, and they know more people in the company, even though they're in 500 locations, some working from home. They feel like they're all part of the same place.
Yes, absolutely. And as a team, how do you work internally to keep your intranet fresh and consistently get new communications and news out?
We have a loosely fitted calendar. And it's, you have to be open to change. There's a lot of things that happen that you don't really expect from a business front that you have to put out there and make sure that this is the number one priority right now. And so some of your other stuff kind of has to go by the wayside, but it will all get out there. We all get it there. And we just sort of stagger it so that homepage looks fresh. Right now we're in a bumper crop of things that we need to have on the Intranet homepage. So we're going to try to stretch it out over the next 2 weeks because we just have a lot of good stuff that we need to make sure is front and center for our team members.
Definitely. And are there any specific tools or features that you lean on heavily?
I'll say one thing. I think the big thing is that when we do team member appreciation, or we do holidays, or we do sort of events, the photo albums are huge. People like to see themselves. They like to, pose and feel like they're included. So we do a lot of contests that are, crazy sock day. And they make people feel very included, no matter where they are. It seems like everybody's on the same page. But I think the photo album is a secret weapon to get people to feel like they are confident and they can contribute to the intranet page.
I was just going to say the homepage itself is very important. Yeah, if something is going on, you can send out an email, right? And it could be like a week ago. It could be in the back of their head. For example, we got a business unit that's going to launch out a new system. It was, communication was sent out last week, but that they may not remember what day it's going to roll out live. So we use the homepage as prominent as an announcement. Here's the day. It's a reminder for them, like, this is what's coming up.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's important. And I've seen the photos from the photo contest. I can tell that people really love that and they have a lot of fun. It's such a great way to engage with your team. And I know you've touched on this already, but again, just for the wider audience, what have your results been? What kind of feedback have you gotten from your colleagues just overall?
Yeah, I could take this one. I think first it started as something's different, right? And there was as you said, certainly Danny mentioned and Larry mentioned a little bit of the disorientation about things moving and changing. And as they got more accustomed and comfortable, that content was going to continue to be delivered fresh and new and interesting. They've definitely, you can see the involvement and the engagement has definitely increased and improved from that perspective. I can give you one example. We had a rougher year in 2022. So in 2023, we set about some objectives from an organizational perspective to try to improve on certain targeted areas. We called them our clawback goals, right? We were going to all work together to be able to make this happen. And we utilized the intranet to be able to keep people updated on how things were going with each of those goals and how we were achieving them on some regular frequency and keeping them updated. And so those kinds of, there's ways to leverage it that people, our colleagues, are now asking us for. In other words, like before, they wouldn't have thought of this as a tool to be able to achieve some of their business results. Now that they see that it has that applicability, if I get that out right, they're asking for that sort of help and support in ways that they hadn't before. So I think that's really what's interesting. You kind of got to light that fire, show folks what it can do, and then the feedback that's coming in is we want more, we want more, we want more. Be prepared for that too. That, you know, you can't light the fire, as Taryn said, and then kind of walk away and not really deliver on that promise. So you have to be prepared that you will see an increase in engagement. And it means that you've got to kind of continue to feed that and make sure that it continues to get the results you're looking for.
Absolutely. And I think that's very, very solid advice. Okay, before we move into the next section, we do have a couple of questions from the audience. The first one being, do you allow your employees to upload videos?
I can take that one. So we find that sometimes the types of videos or the length of videos, just from a pure ease of upload, is not always in their wheelhouse. So what we've trained our team members to do is to reach out to myself or Larry with that content. And we really find that that's a good segue for more conversation, getting background, being able to promote the story. So I think that's the other thing when you think about content curation, is that it's not just going up there, you know, without context, is we're finding ways to plug it in, make it make sense within the greater culture. And so having myself and Larry as a segue to that, I think has really helped our team members be able to make those connections and make them more meaningful. We do have some spaces that are owned by certain portions of the company, certain divisions. They have a little bit more leeway, but we do give them boundaries to work in. And it's really, again, to create a better experience than it is to censor, edit what's getting uploaded.
Absolutely. Another question from the group is, does your intranet have a specific page per department? And do you allow full reign per department, excuse me, or is it streamlined through a specific person or team?
So I can kind of take this one. I think one of the side benefits of the intranet homepage redesign was that as the year has gone on and people have seen the success of getting traction on certain things, departments have come to us and asked us if they can help with the redesign. So we identify liaisons in each department, and they're the point people. And so we kind of help them navigate and create their page and create content for their own page.
Got it. Excellent. All right. I think that was the last question we had so far. So let's talk about documentation. Another huge aspect of Mariner Finance is your very robust documentation. In your business, there's regulations that are different between states and counties, and these regulations can change frequently due to law changes. So when it comes to managing your information and notifying employees about these updates, what is the role of your intranet in this process?
I think I talked a little bit before about how dear email is within our company and how much people love to push information out that way. And, you know, what happens with email is everything becomes a priority because it comes right in front of you in the inbox and you have no ability to regulate it. And what Malia is talking about are some really, really important pieces of information that our team members have to know about instantaneously. So once that policy change rolls out or regulation change rolls out, they have to implement it. And what we found is that the intranet allows us to curate that content in a way that it is right there at their fingertips. So they don't have to create rules in their Outlook folder. They don't have to go back and wonder, well, which was the last email that I received? It really makes an at a glance. And potentially there's more communication about that, but it gives them a reference point to start. Here was the policy change. This is when it was. Maybe my district manager sent out some follow-up and I can go back and look at that date. So we're really looking to provide a tool for support that helps our team members to organize and be able to reference in a very simple way. So I think that's from our policy and procedure perspective, that's the key tool that we're using for in the intranet is really that reference piece.
Yes, absolutely. That's very important. And as we've been chatting a lot about, internal communication is the backbone of everything. So let's talk about how communications in general just works at Mariner Finance. So across the board, you've seen improvements in internal communications at Mariner Finance since relaunching your intranet. Can you tell us more about these improvements that you've seen?
Sure. I think three things. One, people are reading more, they're learning more, they're seeing more. And that's essential and non-essential communications for what they do. I think the second thing that was most surprising to us is that people now feel comfortable contributing. The number of contributors that we have has skyrocketed. People feel comfortable sharing, adding, commenting. So I think that's the second thing. And then the third thing is we've been able to drop our all staff emails, almost in half. And that's just because we really make sure that it's only essential. We don't want to overwhelm our team members. We don't want them to feel like their inbox is always jammed with an all staff communication. A lot of things they can consume that are not emergency at their leisure. And we've really done a good job of using the intranet to do that.
Yeah, that's great. When it comes to segmenting your communication, so you send less emails in general, can you tell us how that looks today?
Sure. We sort of break it up. If it is an urgent matter, it is something that needs to be done within the next couple hours. That is really where we send the all staff. And that's really where that goes. That's the only time we use email. We use everything else on the intranet. And there are other ways where you can also use the intranet to alert somebody that something is really important. If there's something that's happening, we put an alert bar up there. One of our systems is down, and we put that big alert up there so that everybody, when they log onto onto their intranet, they see it right away. They don't have to go hunting for it. They know that something's not quite right. We're working to fix it. And so that also allows us to have that emergency communication.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those who don't know, what Larry is referring to is essentially using a broadcast for that emergency notification. All right. So to wrap everything up, I love to ask you all what your biggest takeaways were from this entire process. If you could give any piece of advice to someone who is trying to achieve similar goals as you with their intranet, what would that be?
I think the first thing that we learned is that we really need to leverage the knowledge that's at Axero. Larry and I stepped into a new role with the company, and Larry came on about 2 years ago. And so we really needed help, and being able to sit down with those collaborators, as Danny mentioned, but talk to Malia every week, and we still do most weeks. It really was helpful because she would sort of connect the dots for us. We knew where we wanted to go, but we weren't really sure how to get there. And so having that expertise and then being able to execute on her suggestions was really, really important to our success.
I was going to say, figure out the team. It's not just an IT tool, it's a communications tool, it's a culture tool. So it doesn't just belong to one department. We all take part of it as well.
And I think my big takeaway was making sure that we were all clear on what we wanted the objectives to be out of this. Because I think, you know, you could take this lots of different ways. There's all kinds of different flexibility built into the Axero tool. So think about what you really need to accomplish within your own organization. And as I think Larry mentioned, be prepared that that'll change, right? We all know that as business people, that the priorities change, the focus can change, the strategy can change, and we've got to be prepared to be able to move with that. But I think that that was probably one of key to us knowing, yes, once we knew kind of what we wanted, having that partnership with Axero to make it really happen was critical.
Yeah, for me, it's all about the people. You know, I really wanted to make the people feel like they were a part of it. And we spent a lot of time, you know, asking Malia, hey, how can we do this? How can we have two-way communication? And we took a lot of the ideas, we thought through them and kind of figured out which one was the best strategy that worked for us.
Yes, absolutely. I think that is key. You know, taking any recommendations that you receive and really identifying what is going to be the best fit for your organization. And do you have any best practices or tips for someone looking to strategize how they use their intranet?
Yeah, I can take this one. I would say figuring out who your frequent content contributors are. You know, as I said, we've had the platform for 5 to 6 years and the platform's up there. But if you don't have people constantly, frequently putting content out there, it's just going to eventually get to a point where it's going to be stale. You know, you're going to have one person, I want a link put up there, and that link can stay up there for 2 years. But if that's all there is, but there's no articles or blogs that go along with it, you know, yeah, just figure out who your contributors are, and then that will tell you whether that department, because someone asked about it, do you have pages per department? If I give someone a department their own page, but they don't put anything there, well, you know, it's not going to be of any use. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. With that, let's take some more questions from the audience. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to put them in that Q&A box. In the meantime, for Taryn, one of the questions that we have for you is, as one of our early adopters of our new Copilot chatbot, can you tell us what you are most excited about to see, you know, when it's officially launched?
Yeah, it is an exciting feature. And I think that we shared a little bit about our robust policies and procedures at Mariner. And I think it really marries two worlds together for us. It creates a place where our team members can potentially go and get that business knowledge that they need in a pretty concise way. And it also keeps them connected to the community. You know, it's more of an interactive sort of engagement around things that can be pretty dry and bland. So we have found many potential use cases, and we're excited to be a part of that pilot. And I'm sure more to come. Hopefully we'll show up on another webinar talking about Copilot.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one is for just the broader team. Do you have more plans for your intranet? Is there more that you want to do in the future?
Yeah, I can go first. The homepage was a start. As Larry said earlier, we've got other departments reaching out to us. Now they've seen the potential of the homepage. They want to see their own department spaces help our users know about their own department. So yes, that would be phase 2, working on the other spaces.
Yeah, and I think one of the unique things about that is that we're very flexible in knowing that each department is probably going to have their own space designed differently, because that's what suits them, and their level of contribution. So we're also very flexible even inside that.
Absolutely. I know I'm excited for phase 2. All right, with that, I think that's all of the questions that we have for today. So I'll kick it back over to Nicole. Oh, Nicole, I think we lost your audio, maybe.
Well, you sure did.
There we are.
Okay. Well, thank you, Malia. Thank you to all of you, Mariner Finance team. We are at the top of the hour, or top of the time here. So we do have another question that we'll follow up. That's the time we have today. So thank you for sending in your questions. And if we didn't get to yours, we'll do a follow-up after the session. We will also send out the recording. And thank you, Taryn, Danny, Lawrence, Patricia, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you all of the participants for joining us. This was such a really valuable conversation. We appreciate you sharing all of the knowledge with the team. For everyone on the call, if you have any questions or if you would like to talk more about Axero and our platform, feel free to reach out to us at info@axerosolutions.com. You can get in touch with us quickly. And then right at the end here, we have a quick survey that's going to pop up on your browser. So if you could leave any feedback, we're always looking to learn and continue improving. So it'll take less than a minute. We would appreciate if you have a quick second to share your feedback. Well, thank you everyone again for joining, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.